Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Game Over Vancouver. I am Sam. If you're here with us from the last stream, thanks for joining us today. And thanks again for bearing with me last time. I am here today with two very special guests. I'm here with Arash Memarzadeh, who is a Canucks podcaster with Pucks on Net, and also with Haley, who is a Caps fan and a fantastic writer. Do you guys want to let everyone know where they can find your work?
For sure. Well, I'm Arash Memarzadeh at Arash Memarzadeh, co-host of Pucks on Net, with my co-hosts Ryan and Gita. One of the longest Vancouver-based hockey podcasts in Vancouver. We're too old for this, and go Haley.
Okay, so I'm Haley, and you can find me on Twitter at HNTWrites, and I have a link to my portfolio there.
So everyone go check out their accounts. Before we get started, I have to give a shout out to our biggest partner. Want to bet? You can do it at Sports Interaction, Canada's sportsbook. Football continues, the World Series is around the corner, and we have dropped the puck on hockey season. Bet pregame, live in play, or on one of our many prop bets. Made for Canadians, by Canadians, Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all sports betting has to offer. Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. Ontario only, 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Okay, now that that's out of the way, we're going to jump right into our first segment. And our first segment, we have decided, is going to be about blown leads. And as Arash said to me before we jumped on air, why are we doing this again? So if you guys are here with us and you watched the game, you'll know the Canucks blew yet another lead. It was yet another game where they played 20 minutes of good hockey. In this case, it was the second period. Gave us some hope. And then yet again, another third period collapse. What stood out to each of you guys watching this game?
I know Taylor Swift's new album Midnights is coming out October 20th, so I'm just going to quote, the legendary Bon Iver Justin Vernon from the song Exile. I think I've seen this film before, and I didn't like the ending. And that was like 2-goal lead into the third. Oh, we're losing. It's naturally going to happen. Not to be pessimistic, but yeah, Sam, like we talked about it. This is now 3 straight games where they are giving up leads in the third period. And we're just justifying from last year where the entire thing is you've gone 8-15-2. And if you don't go 8-15-2 and you get to December and you've cleaned it up, we're going to get into the playoffs. And then by golly, when you get into wild card 2 or 1, anything can happen when you get in. Because look at the LA Kings. They got an 8 seed and they won the cup that one time. So anything can happen. So as Canucks fans, I mean, I don't blame any fans right now for the pessimism and the anger or anything, because I don't know, really, I think they're trying to like protect themselves from any further disappointment right now. And they're kind of shielding it. And then again, the game, to me, at least in a Canucks perspective, they rallied back. The Vancouver wingers kind of attacked the left side of the Washington defense for going out wide and then cutting back in. Generated a lot of chance. Tanner Pearson had a inspired Kyle Wellwood game, totally. But yeah, Sam, I don't know about you, but I'm just like, yeah, okay, great. Let's do the last year over again.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the first period was actually a decent road game. I thought the second period, I was like, oh, they're finally putting this together. Horvat looked good. Pettersson was having a great game. JT Miller was finally not on the ice for a goal against. And then, I don't know what it is. They just don't seem to know how to play with a lead.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Haley? I know the Caps have had some issues with blown leads as well, but how was that game for you?
Yeah, I think for me on both sides of the puck, there's sloppiness all around. And because it is so early in the season, there's always going to be one camp of fans that's like, oh, well, they just started, let's wait. And then for me, I guess I would be more on the pessimistic side of the fan base. It's like, but this is always happening. When you have veterans on your team, I don't think this should be happening. When you have a team as old, personally, as the Caps, I don't think that should be happening. But yeah, I wrote down cross-seam passes. Oh, it was very fast-paced, especially in the first period, and I think it was just kind of sloppiness all around.
Yeah, you spoke about age. I saw a great tweet, I think from at Cody Sievertson, saying the 2022 Vancouver Canucks are about as slow as the 2022 Washington Capitals, which I think is probably a lot more passable for the Caps. I checked on Cap Friendly. The Caps average age this year is, I believe, just over 29, and the Canucks average age is 25.
Cody would absolutely tweet that. You have to know when we're like Canucks Twitter, when we're digging and we're like, hey, just shoveling it on in. Yeah, no, it's pretty apt. Like, Sam, like I don't know about your perspective, but I think this is like a spiritual thing. Like, I think this is like a eat, pray, love thing that the Canucks need to do, where it just seems like this collective of players, for whatever reason, and unless some media members are allowed in the room, the late great Jason Botchford, God bless him, like, would be able to tap into this market like no other, to just kind of suss out what exactly is going on. Because we've fired a coach, we've fired a general manager, we've done Bruce, there it is. Elias Pettersson's wrist is fine, and he is going back to using normal sticks. What is going on?
That's a great question. And I think there was a lot of optimism coming into this season from people saying, the Canucks were a 107-point team after they hired Bruce last year, and so it's a good roster. They've turned it around. It was just coaching, and we're back to more of the same. It's a different coach who showed it could work, and there's just something about this group that just can't pull it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Haley, just personally asking, how does it feel to have a Stanley Cup?
I'd like another one, but it feels pretty good.
I just want one.
just give us one.
I just want to make the playoffs for more than 1 year in a row.
Oh man, the halcyon days of the early 2010s.
Question: since this is something that the Canucks are going through over and over again, do you guys think it is a personnel issue, or is it truly like between the ears? Like, it's just something's not clicking.
Oh, that's such a good question. I actually do. Yeah. I was going to say, I do think for starters, it is a personnel issue. This is, I've said it for a long time, and there are a lot of people who disagree. I don't think this is a roster that is built to be a regular playoff team, much less a Stanley Cup contender. I mean, I know I've been harping on this, but when you have your president describing your defense as certainly adequate and healthy, and then you're down 3 defensemen already, you're down Myers Dermott, you're down Tucker Poolman. I'm like, sorry, those aren't guys who should be making or breaking your team in any way. But the fact that losing those 3 players is enough for this defense to not even be adequate is very concerning in terms of roster. And, they basically need Demko to have a close to Vezina level year every year for them to even be in contention for playoffs. And there's a lot of work to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. October 22nd, when the Canucks open their home opener against Buffalo, Tyler Myers is going to be in the Ring of Honor after he comes back from injury. Everyone's just going to apologize for ever saying anything bad about Tyler Myers. But yeah, it's just like, you've changed everything, and what else is there left to change? And is this specific group good enough to get Canucks fans to where ultimately they want to go, knowing that there's no prospects really coming, knowing that there really isn't any backup? They're capped out, and unless they want to give up future assets and future picks, cap space is there. So it's, we're kind of, unless Jim Rutherford really just puts on the cap and meets with Patrick Alvan and they're like, okay, we're gonna do the Phil Holmgren thing where we're just gonna start trading Mike Richards and Jeff Carter and just really going for it. As a little baby is behind Sam and walks by, cute, adorable. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. I don't want to be too dark or pessimistic, but I guess it's just we've done this before, and I don't know how much different things are going to be going forward, especially with the defense in the way it is, and the Ilya Mikheyev maybe coming back from injury and Kuzmenko addition and Lazar and stuff. But it's like, where is the floor and where is the ceiling? And I just don't think it's going to be exactly where Canucks fans want it to be.
I think the question of whether it's in their heads as well is, for me, what's starting to bother me is who is the leader of this team, right? Mm-hmm. And I know we have this ongoing, like, Bo Horvat has been the villain for the first 2 games. Everyone's like, captain's not doing enough. He had a good game tonight, other than the penalty. And to me, it seems like there's maybe too many leaders in the kitchen. And I know that sounds ridiculous because you should have a lot of leaders, but is it JT Miller? Is it Bo Horvat? Or is it Elias Pettersson? Because they're all very different people, and they all have very different leadership styles. And to me, I don't know that that's all consistent. Mm-hmm. But that's, I think, a good segue into our second segment. I asked Haley, for people watching, I asked Haley what stood out to her as a storyline as a Caps fan watching the Canucks, and what was your answer, Haley?
I was just curious in general about JT Miller, because on my neck of the woods, everyone talks about how great he is, but I never personally have known why or heard a why, and I don't know whether that's because I don't keep up with the Canucks like that, or if there isn't a why. And that's just kind of something people say, but I was very curious about him as a player, especially coming into the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sam, I'm gonna let you just lead off hit on this one.
You just want to get me in trouble with Canucks Twitter.
You're already in trouble with Canucks Twitter.
I am always in trouble. That's like my natural baseline. My view of JT Miller is, I think he's an excellent defensive player. Obviously, career season last year. But for me, I think his age is an issue for this Canucks team. The issue for me also is what we've seen through the first 3 games, which is that he was on the ice for the first 9 goals against this season. Poor defensive game. And so to me, he's one of those players, he clearly really gets the room going. He's got kind of the quintessential traditional hockey leader in the room, gets them going mentality. But I don't know that that's necessarily working for all of the players on the team. Like, that doesn't necessarily strike me as something that works for an Elias Pettersson type. And so for me, I don't agree that he's their best player. Like, best player offensively, maybe, but best player overall, not for me. What about you, Arash?
Okay, so this is going to sound a little bit of like a stretch, and I apologize, but the more and more I think about JT Miller, the more the name Alexei Kovalev comes into my head, where there is no middle with JT Miller. Like, there's no just little, like, just midpoint where, Haley, I don't know about you, but Alex Ovechkin, when Ovi's not scoring, Ovi is trying to figure out what else he can do to just impact the game, whether that's like 10 hits, fighting, whatever, Russian machine never break, whatever. It's great. JT Miller just seems to wow you, dazzle you, Sportsnet highlight reel, perfect. And then we'll make a drop pass or behind the back pass that makes you like really consider whether you should try out to play for the NHL personally. And that's the most infuriating thing, I think, right now. It's that, like, how it's really, really high risk and really, really high reward. And just like Sam touched on it, like, you're signing this person for 8 additional years after this. And this isn't a surprise. Like, his 99-point season wasn't even perfect. It's not like he had a great offensive season, but it's not like he was totally lights out, everything. The one thing Sam, okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this. The one thing I'm just going to push a little bit, and I said this on Pucks on Net, it's kind of like a suggestion, like a little feather on a pond, just really lightly. Is there a reason or any method behind the madness that when they signed JT Miller to this extension, they did not give him a retroactive no move or no trade clause on the final year of this contract, which is still at 5.25 or whatever? The more I think about it, it's kind of gets you thinking that, they have an out. If this thing truly goes the way that it's going, like they have an escape parachute button. And I don't want to drum up any stuff, but, Haley, this is just where we're at. And, for a first Connor McMichael and I don't know, a person who can play defense, JT Miller can be a Washington Capital.
Oh, you would have to find someone who can play defense on the Caps.
Oh man.
What did you think watching Miller tonight, Haley?
Like you said, I can see why people would be drawn to him as a player to go to, especially, people of those kind of tough and like game hardened players, and he kind of gives off that energy. I wasn't necessarily wowed, but I also didn't think he was bad either. He didn't necessarily stand out to me. I was kind of expecting more because I came into it with him on my mind.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
Very fair assessment, yes.
Okay, we have a question in the chat from SDPN. If you had to trade one Canucks player on the current roster, who would you ship out?
Oh no. Okay. You know what? I've done this before. I've been down this road, and I know how to do it. Looking at the makeup of this roster right now, understanding where management and ownership want to go, and that necessarily not every core piece is going to be gone in 2 days, and we're going to have 9 first-round draft picks. I continually ask myself, where does Niels Höglander fit in this roster, especially with Andrei Kuzmenko sitting where he is on, coming out and being an effective player. He had a post tonight and had an assist, I believe, and was very effective in his first few games. If I look at immediate help for a defenseman, a young defenseman, maybe that's also kind of underperformed, perhaps, maybe. If that's a trade chip. But I'm not going to go the easy answer of saying like Bo Horvat, JT Miller, Thatcher Demko, 4 first round picks. Like, small W's, I think, is what this team kind of needs right now. And then if it keeps going like this, then, it really falls on the laps of management and ownership. If they just keep kind of expecting the same results, then they really have to pull the trigger on something big to shake up kind of the culture or whatever non-existent culture this team has.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a different answer. For me, there are probably a handful of untouchable players, which is really just probably at this point, Pettersson, Hughes, Demko. I could probably listen to an argument for anyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so for me, it's anyone you can get a right-handed top 4 defenseman for, or like the first overall pick of in the next couple of years. I like pipe dreams.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even, well, it's like kind of pipe dreams. I mean, Sam, we'll talk about this for like 1 second, but John Marino was traded for Ty Smith, and I'm like, there. But, one thing that frustrates me and maybe frustrates everyone here, are you guys getting sick of this thing where GMs are just like, oh, it's really tough to do stuff? And I'm sitting here with blisters on my hands, having roofed my parents' place, being like, it's hard clearing debris, but that's somebody's job, and it's my job, and you got to do it. And it's like, sometimes that's your position as a general manager. Life is tough. Figure out how to get a right-handed defenseman without giving them $10 million or something. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. We're going to everybody take a deep breath for 2 seconds. And then we're going to shift into our third segment, which is going to be a bit of a sharp turn. Okay, so third segment, we can't not talk about this when we play the Caps. Ovechkin is getting close to breaking Gretzky's record. What do you guys want to see? Do you think he does it?
I think as a storyline and as a Caps fan, it would be amazing to see that, just to see that in my lifetime. But I do fall as a Caps fan more in the camp of like, I would rather see the team as a whole start accomplishing a little bit more. We Watch is fun. It's great seeing the tweets. It's great seeing, the graphics that the social media team makes. But I don't know, it's not top priority for me. I want to see the second round again. That's my top priority.
I'd love to see a second round.
I'd love to see just like
a first round.
Yeah. I'd love to just be like slightly successful again without having other people just being like, hey, look at that kid in the Pacific Northwest with his pants down and no money in his pocket. I'm just like, I don't know. Man, I would love to see Alexander Ovechkin, break this record. Haley, I totally understand though, coming from a perspective of like, does the Washington Capitals identity in the next few years strictly belong to Alexander Ovechkin breaking this record? And as awesome as that might be for fans, like there is also a Stanley Cup and like playoffs and other things. But I'm also excited to see like what other hijinks, the NHL might come up with to like stop Alexander Ovechkin from breaking this record. Like Gary just comes out and he's like, another lockout. So I don't know,
Yeah. So I think what could be a dark horse, interesting storyline this year is I think Sidney Crosby is having the best start to the season that he has had in a long time. I think people have really not talked that much about Crosby the last few years, and it's kind of their last hurrah at a good rivalry. And I would love to see them both go on a tear. Like one last run.
I'm gonna snap my fingers. Can we get Penn's Caps one more time? Can we just get them one more time? Like both superstars, like 42, everyone's just really tired and they're coming out and just one more kick at the can. Like that would be, I could get really nostalgic for that.
Yeah. I always say like I'm so over it and I'm ready for the NHL to find a new like narrative, and then like we play the Pens and I'm like, you need to kill them. Like you need to crush them.
It is a great storyline, right? Like as good as the McDavid Matthews storyline is, there isn't the same kind of rivalry between the Oilers and the Leafs. Like it doesn't have the same hatred and the same stakes on the line because like neither of them can get into the finals.
Right. Oh man. Yeah. I think we just kind of need to normalize a few like familiar rivalries, just to get back into the swing of things. Maybe that would be really good. It sucks the Flyers are out because every time the Flyers get into playoffs, it's like, well, the goaltending's non-existent anymore. And Ilya Bryzgalov has decided to call it a career mid-game. But question, not to distract, did the Leafs lose tonight or did they win?
Last I checked, they were in fact losing to the Coyotes. And actually, prescient, somebody, Mark Carvello in our chat says, how is it on a night where the Leafs lost at home to the Coyotes? They are not the most embarrassing Canadian team tonight.
Oh man.
I think losing to the Coyotes at home is more embarrassing than what the Canucks did tonight.
Dude, Steve Dangle, I love you. And all the Leafs fans listening here, I love you. But you're going to hate me for this. You just lost to a team comprised entirely of that like Dolly mini AI generated thing where you just typed in hockey player and 19 people on the Coyotes rosters were just those like wax poetic figures or whatever. Nick Ritchie had a goal. I mean,
He had 2 goals. I think he possibly had a hat trick. I think he definitely had at least 2 goals. I was on Nick Ritchie hat trick watch, and then I got too depressed watching the Canucks.
Yeah. Well, it's the beautiful game. I'll just say that.
Yeah. I mean, the other interesting storyline with the Coyotes is seems like the Coyotes and the Blackhawks did not get the memo that they are supposed to be losing games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're going to rub it in, but Jason Dickinson getting 3 points to him. I think the most cringe stat line yesterday before this game was that with his 3-point game yesterday, Jason Dickinson would have been leading the Canucks in scoring, which just burned our city down for again for one night. But Haley, okay, before we wrap up and everything, tell me about the Caps. I'm really curious because again, Connor McMichael wasn't dressed tonight. I know that was a former first rounder who people on HF boards are like, you're gonna have to give us McDavid for him. Yeah, where's everything going for the Washington Capitals right now?
To me, they're in this really weird space. It kind of reminds me of how Nashville was after getting to that final of you have way too many good players to completely burn it down and rebuild. But at the same time, if you do get into the playoffs, you're going to have to fight probably harder than you have in previous years. I'm never going to count them out. That's just the fan in me, but they frustrate me to no end. And I feel like this season is going to make me blow a gasket if things don't turn around. I'm not very high on the defense. I don't even know what to say about the goaltending. I was so indifferent coming into the season, and now I'm kind of whatever happens, happens. I wipe my hands clean of it.
Fan.
Yeah. Pretty much.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm Samantha. I am a co-host of this show. You can find me at SamanthaCP_. I'm here with Arash Memarzadeh. You can find him at Arash Memarzadeh on Twitter, and Haley at HNT Writes. Please rate, and subscribe to the show. And if you are a sucker for punishment, the Canucks play Johnny Gaudreau and the Patrick Laine-less Columbus Blue Jackets tomorrow. I predicted last week that the Canucks would end this road trip with 5 points, and they are not going to hit 5 points. But if they win tomorrow, they can have 2 points and not be dead last in the Pacific.
Well, yeah. Okay. You know what? Little victories. I said little victories. Yeah, Sam, okay, everyone back on the bandwagon. Let's go, Bruce. There it is.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow. Kaya is going to be running the show tomorrow. And thanks again for joining us, guys.